Alrighty, NFL Week 8 has pretty much officially wrapped up all the Sunday games, the Thursday game. The only game that has not taken place yet is the Monday Night Football game that will put the Steelers and the Giants against each other. I picked the Steelers in that game, but I wanted to go through the entire slate of these games that have been played so far and just kind of give my reaction to what I thought about it. I thought that other than a few games, it was pretty standard to what I thought, but there were a few big upsets in there. And the first game we're going to start with here is the Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I was going into this game, I thought that there was a lot of issues on the Eagles side. I thought at the head coaching position, though the Bengals were kind of starting to roll a tiny bit, I thought they were kind of building momentum and getting in the right place. But, I mean, as you saw, the Bengals defense is just a liability. Not saying that they couldn't have played better on offense, but they allowed Saquon Barkley to rush for 108 yards. Jalen Hurts had, I think, 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns, 236 yards passing. They got burnt, and they ran up 37 points on them. I don't know if the Bengals can bounce back and be a playoff team. The only thing they got going for them is that within the AFC, it's been a lot of teams that are like 500 or around 500. So if they can go on a streak, which I think their schedule allows them to, they could have a shot to sneak into the wild card. But their shot to win in the division, in my opinion, that's pretty much a pipe dream at this point. Next up to the most shocking, in my opinion, game of this entire slate, which was the Ravens and the Browns. And first of all, you could just see it from the energy. The entire team, I saw more energy from the Cleveland Browns. And I think it's because of Deshaun Watson not being there. I think it just had a huge effect on him. And I think we've kind of learned the type of quarterback that works within Stefanski's scheme to the best. Gunslingers. Gunslingers that aren't afraid if the ball gets picked off, aren't afraid to get vertical with the ball. Maybe Deshaun Watson was just never really the right quarterback type to be in his system. And Jameis Winston, not saying he's the guy long term, but he gives them a better chance with what Stefanski's trying to do. And they were able to expose that. The defense looked like the Cleveland Browns defense today. I didn't think Lamar played terrible. I didn't think Henry played terrible. I think that the Browns are a team against these Baltimore Ravens where they're just a lot more likely to be able to win them because they're so used to playing them. Like, there's a reason his record in the against the NFC, he's only lost one game in his entire career against the NFC. There's a reason for that. There's a complete reason for that because they're not used to playing them. The Browns, they're used to playing the Ravens. They've been around it, a team that can compete with them, and they come out and they get the most surprising win of the week. So I thought it was a great, and at this point, I don't know if they can continue this, but it really surprised me. It really surprised me. Next up, we're going to go kind of out of order here to a game that just finished up here. And it's the Cowboys and the 49ers Sunday Night Football game. And the Cowboys almost came back in this. CeeDee Lamb had a ridiculous game, just tearing it up. I think 2 TDs. The 49ers, I think their big problem this year is going to be the injuries that might ultimately hold them back from getting back to the Super Bowl. But it's a really solid team. The Cowboys just ended up laying 2 eggs in 2 of the quarters. They came back at the end, but isn't that kind of the motto for what they've been doing recently? Like, even in that playoff game against the Green Bay Packers, they scored a bunch of points at the end in garbage hours. This game was a lot further than that score indicates. And we got to start looking, are the Cowboys a playoff team? NFC's pretty good this year. There's a lot of, their window might be completely shut. So we'll have to monitor that. But other than that, it was pretty standard to how I thought the game was going to go. I just figure the Cowboys are in a weird spot right now where it's just kind of a circus there. It's kind of a circus. They're losing games. So we'll see how it shakes up for them. But not a great performance for the Dallas Cowboys. After that, we go to the Detroit Lions and the Tennessee Titans. And Detroit has been playing out of their minds recently. This looks like the best team in the NFL right now. I thought that they would not be able to be on the same wavelength as they were when they lost Aiden Hutchinson. I was wrong about that. They haven't missed a beat. Like 52-14 against Tennessee. Game was never in doubt. They've just dominated. They're just like, he's coming and dominate. They're running the ball fluidly. Jared Goff's sitting back there slinging it. And I know Tennessee's pretty terrible, but still, it says something with what they're doing. It's really impressive. The amount of points they're putting up, backed by the ability of their defense. This is, right now, they're playing like the best team in the NFL. So, yeah, it was just a really good performance, and we'll see how they do in the coming weeks. Next up, we go to a game where I think there's hope for Miami. And like I said, I think anything at this point can happen in the AFC towards the bottom of that wild card position, because you have a lot of just teams like kind of just floating around 500. But the good news for Miami is they looked back in a sense. They looked like they were comparable, but they gave this one away to Arizona. I thought they had Arizona, and props to the Cardinals, because they just, they're 500, and I don't think they should be, but they are. Marvin Harrison Jr. has a breakout game. McBride kind of emerging as one of the better tight ends in the NFL at this point. I think it's safe to slide him into the top 5. Then Kyler Murray, he's just got a unique skill set where he's just able to do things that others can't. And that was put on display here, and this is the way they've been winning. This is what they had to do against the 49ers. They just find a way to win these close games within a field goal, and they get a much-needed win. And like I said, they're 5. Are we talking maybe, like, that division is looking more and more open as we go. So that was a great win for the Arizona Cardinals. Next, the Jets and the Patriots. And what a disaster. What a disaster for the New York Jets. It's kind of comedy at this point how bad they are right now. And Garrett Wilson had a pretty good game. Aaron Rodgers, if you look at his numbers, they're not terrible. It's just you're playing the Patriots, who are just not a good team in the NFL. They're playing two different quarterbacks in this game. It's got to be one of the bigger disappointments in recent memory, which is just crazy, but it just is what it is at this point. They've allowed it to get to this point, and they're 2-6 now with, in my opinion, no shot to make the playoffs. This could get ugly for them. So we'll see how it develops, but just a bad loss for the Jets in a game where I thought they were missing the playoffs after the last game. When they went to 2-5, that was enough for me to already call quits. I didn't think they were this bad. I didn't think they'd lose to the Patriots. So, I mean, that just a tough spot for the Jets. Next, you go to the Falcons and the Bucs. And I feel bad for the Bucs because this is a game. They have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They're winning this game. They're winning this game probably by 2 touchdowns. But give the Falcons props. They found a way to get the game in this one. And looks like they got a real shot at this division now. I think the Bucs, quality team. Baker, got to give him a lot of credit here because he's been really playing well, especially to put up a performance like this with your 2 best receivers out is just really incredible. And it sucks that they're out, but if you look at the Bucs, they're still sitting at 500. Season's definitely not over yet. A lot of possibilities. Season's definitely not done here yet. So they just got to continue to hope that they get healthy. Baker, if he keeps playing like this, the wins will come. The wins will come. But I thought Atlanta, what they did is they took care of business today. And that's why they have a stranglehold on the division. Next, you go to the Packers and the Jags. And the Jags are looking a lot better. Jags are looking a lot better than they have previously. And I think maybe they just got off to a slow start. I don't think they're making the playoffs this year, obviously. I think that's kind of out of the line for them. But that they, to give them props, they came back in this game and they almost won it. Green Bay, I think Josh Jacobs, he had an incredible game. Jordan Love, able to put them in position to win the game. I really don't know what to make of the Packers yet. I don't know if they're quite a team that I could say could run the table and go to the Super Bowl, but I think it's certainly possible. I think they're a really well-rounded team. But I think my biggest takeaway of this game is you got to give some props to Jacksonville. They've looked a lot better. Brian Thomas Jr. leaves in this game with that injury. Maybe if he's in, it changes the outcome. I don't know if it does, though. But I was impressed with how the Jags did today, although they fall up short. Next up was a game that I just figured was going to be competitive because it always seems to be in the Colts and the Texans. Just in division games are usually competitive in the NFL, unless there's like a bunch of injuries or because they're so used and familiarized with each other. I thought C.J. Stroud played pretty well. It's a game where the thing with C.J. Stroud is obviously he needs Nico Collins to kind of get to that next level, I think. But without him today, I thought it was a pretty impressive performance. Colts could have won this game. There was an opportunity, but another win for the Texans, 6-2. We'll see what their outlook is as the season keeps going, but I think, it's a division win. It's a quality win, in my opinion. Next, you go to the Saints and the Chargers, and the Saints doing it again. Start out 2-0, look really good, lose 6 straight. I think a lot of this has to do with them having just a poor backup quarterback. The Hainer guy, it's like, that's the best you can do at backup? Come on. That's my opinion on it. I think that just puts your team in a situation where they should lose. I think Dennis Allen's probably gone soon. For the Chargers, they're just the definition of that team that is well-rounded enough where they're going to beat up on these teams that are terrible. That's why I think they could make the playoffs, certainly. J.K. Dobbins has looked really well. Justin Herbert, give him a lot of props. Looked really good in this game. He doesn't have really the receiving core out there, and he's just been putting up numbers. The defense is one of the better units in the league, in my opinion. So I thought it was a well-rounded, great win for the Chargers. Next, you go to the Bills, Seahawks. I didn't think the Bills would win by this much because the Seahawks have just been one of maybe the most inconsistent teams in the NFL through this point, which it's just weird. I really don't know where to go with them. Like, it's weird because their record's 4-4 too, and they're 500. I don't know how I feel about them. And then the Bills, this is just a pure example of like when they want to turn it on, they'll turn it on. They'll play really well against these mediocre teams, and you'll get the flashes where you're like, oh, this is a great team. Let's see what happens when they play the big dogs. That's my biggest takeaway from that. But I thought they played a great game overall. James Cook did well. Josh Allen, can't really complain with how he played. Shakir really emerging as kind of their go-to receiver here. Amari Cooper didn't do anything crazy today, but it's a well-rounded win for the Bills, in my opinion. The Broncos win 28-14. They were up 28-7 for the majority of this game. They should have won 35-7, in my opinion. So the score looks a lot closer than it was, as I predicted in my predictions video. But, I'm just really impressed with how Bo Nix is kind of developing. I think it's really good to see that because he's playing really well. Courtland Sutton finally had a good game after having no catches in the previous one. This is a playoff team, in my opinion, 5-3. They're playing really well. They're just in a really tough division. And, sometimes that happens. But watch out for this Broncos team. For the Panthers, I don't know what you really do at this point. I think that if you just don't miss on a quarterback because they're probably going to get the first pick again. Don't miss on the quarterback. That's the only bit of advice that I can give them because they got a lot of problems. And if you can go a long way if you can fix the quarterback, and I don't know if they have the right coach. I think that he deserves another year because I don't think he was really put in a spot where he had much of a chance. But you got to get the quarterback right if you're the Panthers. Got to get the quarterback right. Next up, you go to the Chiefs, who go to 7-0. Thought they looked pretty solid in this game. Mahomes, 262, 2 TDs. Kareem Hunt has really been a solid guy for him. Kelsey has 10 catches, 90 yards, a TD. Xavier Worthy gets that touchdown late in this game. They were up like 27-13, I believe, at one point. Pretty solid win, but this is what they kind of do. They've been dancing around. I figured this would be a closer game. It appears a little closer than it was, but overall, can't complain with their win. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it continues to play out and how they look in the coming weeks. But 7-0, Just a really good start for them. But I think it's the best start they've had since he was in his first starting year there. So they're playing really well. Next up, we go to probably the most entertaining game of the entire thing at the end. In the beginning, it's like a field goal battle between the Bears and the Commanders. And and I didn't think Jaden Daniels was playing in this game originally. The reports were saying he wasn't. He ended up toughing it out and playing this game. And I think the Bears kind of finally got established once DeAndre Swift broke that long one. And then the defense got into it. They got a great defensive unit. Seibert missed a field goal, and then the Bears just really got into position, had a shot to get there and win the game. They fumble the one, then they get back down there. They do punch it in, and there's like 25 seconds left. I'm like, that's a great win for the Bears. They're about to be 5-2. This is going to be a great win for the Bears. And then Jaden Daniels dances around in the back and just delivers a Hail Mary. I didn't think he had that kind of arm strength to get it that far. I said, there's no way. When he threw the ball out, I said, there's no way this is making it. And it just, Noah Brown's in the perfect spot where it bumps up, and it wasn't even contested after the initial contact on it. Great Hail Mary winning touchdown. There's only a handful of plays in NFL history where this has happened. It's incredible to see, but it's just crushing if you're a Bears fan. I mean, that is just a franchise of pain, and that's another one to add to the list because you kind of finally think you got your groove. You're getting a big win. You're going to 5-2. They're in the toughest division in football, in my opinion. The Packers, obviously, really solid. Vikings, the Lions, as I said, I think are the best team in the NFL. Tough draw for them. They really needed that win. And even more so, would have given him, like, he's the number one pick. It would have given him win over Jaden Daniels, who is just incredible. He's going to be, barring a bad injury, which, hopefully doesn't happen to him, he's going to be a great player in this NFL. Really solid player. I think Caleb Williams is fine, too. I think they got a guy for the future there. He gets off to slow starts sometimes, but there's one particular pass that he made in the red zone where he threaded the needle through this tight window. I was like, yeah, they're going to be fine. The Bears are going to be fine. This is a crushing loss today, but they got their quarterback of the future, and I think that's for certain at least. And then next up, you go to obviously the Thursday game. Going to do it last. Minnesota, I thought in this, and obviously a lot of people want to talk about that face mask as kind of the big nail in the coffin of this game, but they shouldn't have been put in that position. If you look at it, Sam Darnold at one point when they had a chance to go up, I think it was 20-17, and he scrambled around. He hit a wide open receiver. The guy dropped it. That was a huge 4-point swing. It would have been 24. Would have changed the game, I think, in my opinion. But obviously that doesn't happen. The Rams score. They continued to score. And that's just the way it went. I still think the Vikings team is pretty solid. But obviously what you can tell here is that I think Sam Darnold is good enough. He's an average quarterback in the NFL. Maybe a little above average. Do I think you can go far in the playoffs with Sam Darnold? Probably not. I don't think you can certainly make the playoffs, and I think he's improved. But watching Stafford out there, it's you can tell good from great pretty easily. You can see it on the field, and I think that's what we saw in Matt Stafford when he has his weapons. When the Rams are healthy, very competitive team. Very competitive, scary team when everybody's healthy. And they've built the defense. It's a young defense. Jared Verse was getting everywhere. Watch out for the Rams. Watch out for them. If everybody can stay healthy, watch out. But yeah, that's the week. We'll see what happens in that Steelers-Giants game. But that will do it.